Hey everybody, welcome into the half. As you can see, we have a different lineup again. If you only ever showed up for last week's show, we have the same lineup. But I'm Eric Campbell. You can find me at erichcampbell.com. And over here we have Jeff Fuller of Fuller Embroidery Works and of the Embroidery Nerd being awesome again. And I'm doing the wrong direction over here. He is here once again as a guest host here on the half. So, Jeff, thank you for coming in.
Yeah, not a problem. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, it has been a little bit of a technical difficulty ridden morning. We would love to hear from you guys if you are here listening, jump in with your comments and questions. And by all means, derail us. Ask about embroidery is a good time today to ask about embroidery. You might want to stay away from the screen printing ones today. If you have questions for that, I don't have backup the way I usually do, but embroidery we got.
Yep.
And like you guys may have seen before, I was just on the Two Other Guys show and hosting that, and partially with Aaron Montgomery, where we could get him in talking about dealing with change. Hey, don't we all have to deal with change and things going wrong these days? But that's something we may talk a little bit about today. I know certainly I've been feeling that lately. There's a lot of changes going on in the industry and around the industry, but it's all about how we react to those things and find opportunities. It makes difference for us. But if you are dealing with some changes, if you've got some stuff that you're going through, if you've got projects you're working on and you want to ask questions, share your experiences, please, by all means, hit us up in the comments. And even if you're in the replay squad, jump in and let us know how you're doing out there. All right. So we have a couple of folks who've jumped in already. Some people are brave, jumped out in the comments early. We have Bevy Jean saying, "Good day to use guys." I'll say it for you. You wrote it that way, you get it that way. So Bevy Jean's in. Thank you for saying hi, Bevy Jean. And Jerry Finio is in as well, educator herself. So glad to have you in as well. I know you're working on lots of projects, as we all are. But hey, Jeff, not to put you on the spot, but what are you working on? What's your big stuff right now? What are your challenges?
Right now, oof.
Yeah.
I've just been doing a lot of patches.
Mm,
I've got some hats to do.
yep.
I was lucky and was actually able to get some Richardsons that were in stock somewhere. And I ordered, like, I had a customer that said, "Hey, I want this hat," and I said, "I can't get it right now, and I don't know when I'll be able to get it." And he's like, "Well, just when you can get some in, we'll order them."
Hey, that's an option, right? I think
7 months
sometimes
later,
months. How many months now?
7 months later,
Seven
they're
months later,
sitting back there.
and the order still went through.
Yeah.
Hey,
I sent him a message. He's like, "Sweet."
you never know, folks, that in the world where we had to go from, and I remember when it was 2 to 4 week turnaround was normal, and then it became, 5 day turnaround was normal. Now we're back down, we're down to the 7 month turnaround. But there's a customer who agreed to it. That's like the power of communicating up front, right?
Yep. I mean, it helped. He bought and paid, so I'm pretty happy about that. Downside is now I just got to find the time to work it in because I've got other stuff scheduled. And
Yep. Having that on deck means he probably is expecting, oh, now that they're in,
yep, now that
order
they're
on
in,
deck,
you're gonna do them right away, right?
right?
No, I'm sorry.
Nah.
I've got a couple other things. Other than that, I've been working with Adam a little bit. He's finally out of
Very cool.
school and excited to be back doing videos and selling products. And
Nice. So that's bjjhats.com. If you don't know, there's your marketing touch of the moment. But yeah, Adam, Jeff's son, does, as you guys know, uh, work on his own line of hats and products. That's cool. So
yep,
marketing, doing the work, keeping it going as per the usual. Boy, isn't that isn't that just how it is with all of us and dealing with stock issues?
yep.
But hey, there's an attitude toward change. Just let people know that's what it is. If we have something that you absolutely have to have that stock that you want, here's your options. Might be 7 months.
Yeah, I mean, he was okay with it. He's just like, "All right, no, I understand," because it's a business to business.
Yeah.
So he orders other stuff. He's like, "Yep, I'm having that same problem with everything else. I get it."
Yeah. B2B, it seems like at least over time it got better. Where earlier on, when we were dealing with people reacting to kind of the stock shortages, there were issues, especially B2C directly to customers, but B2B people know because everyone's having trouble getting resources for what they're doing. If you're dealing with contractors, they know, especially if we all remember the lumber issue that we had for a while there, where lumber was very dear and hard to come by. Those folks understood the hat thing pretty quick. But, not always the same. But we have a couple other people saying hi. I'm going to bring in. We've got Bill saying happy Friday, Eric and Jeff. Happy Friday, Bill. Happy to have you there. Got Mike coming in saying morning. Morning, Mike. Ramona says a word of warning from her. So just a word of warning. Do not nip the area between two fingers with your trimming scissors. It hurts and bleeds. And I'll say that I used to be fairly mercenary with myself about this. I'm like, as long as I don't bleed on the shirts, that's a problem for another time. But yeah, watch where the points those are. Here's the other thing I'm going to say. If you have a trimmer, really quickly, you can tell easily if you bring in trimmers. We used to bring in people just to do trimming in the shops I was in. If they point the scissors like this, yeah, either correct them or fire them. This is how we're going to ruin a lot of garments. If they immediately come in and point their trimmers right straight down, I even have trimmers sitting here with me. And I remember distinctly watching somebody's going, man, we keep getting all these little holes. What's wrong with the digitizing? And then I went back and saw our brand new trimmer doing this. And I was like, yep, that's where the holes are coming from. Let me just
That's the
correct
worst
that
part of the
angle.
program right there. You know, you're
All right.
digitizing and that scissors comes down and just randomly.
Yeah. Whenever I put in the note for everybody in my file that makes them trim wrong, that's totally the problem with my file. It's like tensions. I always tell people, I'm like, I wish we now have machines that control tension in ways they didn't back in the day when everything was knobs. There was nothing but tension discs to pass through. I'm like, guys, I wish I could control tension with my file. I can't. I can do nothing for you. The tension is on the machine. It's not me. But I guess this is not like digitizer grump hour. But yeah,
It could be very quickly.
it could be. That's not a file problem. Those loops are, by the way, I'll just go ahead and do a PSA for everyone. If you're having looping or intermittent tension problems in your embroidery, it's very likely to do with your bobbin. Clean your bobbin spring, and if you've dropped your bobbin case on the concrete from 4 feet, there's a good chance it's out of round and catching up the bobbin and causing intermittent tension problems. Please change your bobbin cases frequently. So we could have recorded that as a PSA now.
Yeah, that was a pretty good PSA.
Right? All right. So and Ramona sharing the good news about Adam's video. Did you see that video he did? It's amazing. Yes, I did, and it is Adam. Good work. That was a really cool video. And Kristen says, good morning. So good morning, Kristen. Happy to have you in as well. All right. So yeah, change is in the air right now. We are all dealing with these things. We're all dealing with difficulties.
Yeah.
I think, however, I'm seeing decorators really, a lot of decorators are kind of rising to meet it. If you're still around now, you're rising to meet that change and finding your place.
Yeah. I mean, when the pandemic first happened, I can't tell you how many people were in shops that came to me and said, I'm not making any money right now. Nobody's making any money. What are you selling? What are you doing? And I saw shops, you know, that there was one shop in particular, he pivoted and he started making in the hoop. He'd fully sublimate and then make in the hoop face masks. And that was his pivot. And that kept his business going afloat and profitable over the pandemic. And then when things started getting back to normal.
Yeah, we put scare quotes on that one for a reason, folks.
Yeah, you know, he started moving back towards the, you know, shirts, hats, left chest logos because businesses started opening back up.
Yeah,
New employees, you know, so a lot of that change and that pivot, it's reactionary to what's going on in the market. But if you don't react to it, if you don't change, if you don't see. At the beginning of that pandemic, when they started talking about masks, that's probably when people should have started making masks and doing masks. And then, you know, you can kind of forecast this stuff. You can see things that are going to happen.
Yeah.
And you need to know, okay, this is the direction we're headed. We need to pivot to accommodate this.
Yeah.
And we'll do something else.
Well, and frankly, it's as much as it hurts sometimes, and it does, it can hurt. You can build up an entire business surrounding something and find out it's just not popular anymore. It just doesn't hold up. And processes. The one I always think about is a shop that I came from had an embossing press. And the funny thing is, I'm seeing it again now. I'm seeing denim embossing again now. But when they bought it, they're like, man, embossing is going to be the thing. We're going to emboss these big things on the back of denim jackets. So it's like an overgrown heat press that accepts a die that helps to do this embossing. But it meant you have to have a die made for every design, and nobody was willing to pay for the dies. So here we have this big piece of equipment that does nothing but take up room. Sometimes that stuff hurts to make the change away from it. But if you built your entire business around a real fad decoration, that can be tough. That can be tough. You can make it work, but then it's all about like striking when the iron is hot, getting the stuff out the door, making sure you're out there marketing it, and then when the market starts to dry up, not hanging on too long. My kind of family joke about this, and I've got a couple comments I'm bringing here, but my family joke has always been like the last guy who was selling spats. If you know what spats are, it kind of covers the top of your shoes. The reason you don't know what they are is that they've gone out of fashion over 100 years ago. But there was some guy who was like the last guy at the Amalgamated Spats factory who was like, they're coming back, spats. I'll be here when they get back. And he made spats until he ran his business into the ground. There are times when your customers just don't want what you have anymore, and you have to think about that. Or at the very least, bring in a secondary diversified kind of stream of income to make that work out, whether that's other products or sometimes even entirely another source of income. And I see more and more decorators doing that. I can't tell you how many decorators are also have commercial real estate or also have something else that's not even related to the industry so that there's somewhere to kind of carry when there's low spots on one side or the other.
Yeah.
It's just the reality of things. But yeah, let's we'll bring in a couple comments. First, Ramona, I agree with this one. You need to call it the new normal. Yeah, that's like it's like pivot as much as we use it because it makes sense. Everybody says it and we say it so much. The new normal. Oh my God, the new normal kills me because the thing is, there never has been a normal. There are small plateaus of normalcy interspersed with change up and down all the time. Like there has never been a normal as far as that goes. And Kristen brings up this comment. We have something in our family. Normal is just a setting on your dryer. Yeah, but usually that's when we're talking about how we're not normal. but, but I agree. And Mike apparently enjoying my Amalgamated Spats factory a little too much. Yeah, that's always my joke. And the reason I say that is because I have been in companies that did this. I don't want to say that, but I've been in companies where we hung out too long on a trend or on a style. Like, and the funny thing is, a lot of it comes back, so you feel bad later. Don't get me wrong. The first time somebody saw like a color changing shirt come back, the last guy who had a 90s, hyper color t-shirt factory freaked out that he got rid of his equipment or didn't use that formulation anymore. But you can't bet on that forever. Like very few things last that long outside of maybe patches. And there's an argument there to be made that patches have held on pretty well throughout. But I'll tell you this, the big square hat patch, when I first came in, you couldn't sell a trucker with a square, big rectangular patch on it.
And
That
now
was
it's
an
the
old
thing
man
people are
hat.
looking for. They're like, can you? And you're like, ugh, embroidery style for that. I mean, I can, but
but it's a very big pain. Yep.
You know what? This is one that always sticks in my mind when we talk about fads and trends. You remember the UV active thread?
Mm-hmm.
It changed color from like
Solar
pale
active.
white to orange or purple, or
Yep.
when you took it out in the sun. Yep, that's one of the ones that it's like when you talk about a fad that kind of just went away. That's one of them.
Yeah, there's certain ones that just, and I still see people looking for it. I had somebody ask me within the last month for solar active thread. I get why people want it. It's interesting. I've done a piece on it before. I still have samples of my old solar active threads, but yeah, it's one of those things that's really hard to display and make it work. And the other thing that can happen is you can have a great idea that feels right. It feels like a great idea, but doesn't play out in the market that you're in. Big one that I bring up to folks, and it kind of makes me feel bad. Q104. It's a big, thick stabilizing, well, not stabilizer. It's a big, thick topping material that you stitch over. It looks like a big, thick piece of felt, but it washes entirely away. The problem is, you can make these cool kind of loose 3D designs out of it, but it has to be laundered out. Like that is really the only thing you do with it. It is thick. You can't just steam it out. It has to be washed out. And getting a business to business customer, which was my primary customer group, to accept a laundered garment was super difficult. When we had lines that were retail styled, like we did things for trade shows for different segments, those things we could have retail styled garments that had gone through a wash. Trying to get a traditional business to business client to accept a garment, even with a really cool decoration that I had to wash and also charge them for the pleasure of us washing the garment, was super hard, to the point that I only had a couple customers who hung with me to do these cool treatments. Like they looked at the treatment, they liked it, they thought it was cool, but trying to get somebody to accept that garment that looked like it had been through the wash once was super hard if they were used to getting super crisp garments that still had the sizing on them, that still looked like one straight out of the box.
See, and all of that story, my mental picture instantly went to Eric walking into a laundromat with 50 sweatshirts to throw in with a bag of quarters.
You wish it was 50.
That was my mental picture. Is just you walking in there.
No, we eventually had washing machines on site. We had for a while because we were doing it for we ended up doing it for a real estate trade show we did multiple times every year. And we did finally have some garments where we were using stuff that had to be laundered. And we had some different products that had to be laundered for them to work correctly. But flat out, it had to be in the retail space that it worked. I only had one other place that really hung on for the longest period of time. And funny enough, a boba tea shop that just loved it. They wanted a dimensional look on aprons without foam. They hated the foam. They liked the dimensional look. The looseness of it was something they enjoyed. But it got to the end where I couldn't source the material anymore, and I finally just told them, "Hey, the era is over. We can't do this anymore. I can't source this material for you reliably. We just had to go to straight regular embroidery, and they converted, and it just never went back." That's not to say that was a bad product. It just wasn't right for that market at the time. And
Well, and
if I had laid
it's
into it, it'd been hard. Mhm.
it's different now with social media, because back
Yes.
then, they would come out with a product and they had to launch it to, they tried to sell it to their buyers who, you may or may not have bought some. They would have tested and thought, oh, this is cool, but they never really showed it off. And
Yeah.
now you can send out a product like that to 15, 20 people. They sell it out, they take pictures, they throw it on social media, and now instantly it's a thing, or instantly it's not a thing. And
True. Oh, the testing is much faster. Yeah.
Yep.
The testing is much faster. The proof is much faster. But I will say this, sometimes if somebody comes out with a negative opinion and they hit it at the right time, at the right place, getting rid of that negative opinion, no matter how many positive opinions you get, is hard.
Hmm.
That can be difficult. I mean, you have to respond to it. I will say this though, nothing looks worse on you as a business than having a heated response to a negative comment. If you are angry, stop and don't respond yet. Just don't. The thing that looks the worst is if you get into like a slap fight. If you're childish on the internet with someone over a negative comment, it just looks so bad on you. Always come off like you're the parent dealing with the unruly child rather than being two kids in a slap fight. It just doesn't
Yeah.
look good. I know that's terrible. And I mean, honestly, a lot of kids are better behaved than most of the business owners that I had to talk to about this one. I prefer how the kids handle themselves. But the concept of getting down into the muck with everybody and fighting about that stuff, it's just not worth it whatsoever.
Yeah.
But yeah, but
It
you're right. People can sink a product. They can
very quickly. If they don't
very
like it,
quickly.
I call it the social media witch hunt.
Oh yeah,
If they don't like it, it's turned into a social media witch hunt, and
yeah.
good luck. That's
Oh
all I
no,
got.
I had a group that did this one time. I'll share something that's not a nice story, but hey, whatever, it is a story. If you guys know the plastic kind of patch method where we use like vinyl or some sort of plastic substrate that we're stitching on top of, either doing thread-based patch or we're putting down an applique and we're stitching our edges on plastic and just ripping it out. So we have a nice, stable material. I had somebody where the only comment I made, I showed the option and said, "Hey, if you have this stuff around, why not give it a try?" That was kind of the option. And someone came at me hot with, "Why not? Because plastic is killing the planet and now you're a part of it and you're advocating for, this horrible eco-unfriendly method. How could you in good conscience as a human being show people how to sew out with plastic?" And then I wanted to talk to this person because I'm like, I would love you to know as an embroiderer, you are a machine embroiderer and you use polyester thread. You're in the plastic world with me. I'm sorry. If we want to all have, plastic on our hands, you two have microplastics on yourself. Number one. There's the emotional reaction I wanted to have. The real reaction was, hey, this is a great way to do immediate reuse with plastics you have on hand instead of throwing them in a landfill. Now they become something people pass down and keep as an heirloom or keep as an object that's valuable. And that was the nicer answer of it. But the first thing I want to say was, you on your plastic embroidery machine full of plastic parts and gears using polyester thread, probably not reversing the entire history of plastic by not using plastic, materials to make your patch. I understand. But it was one of those things where I'm like, okay, it became kind of a witch hunt moment where there were two. But the funny thing is, you can also get defenders. So the two sides came in where it was like, Eric's a saint who's just trying to teach us, and which is also not true. And the other side is, you are horrible and you're trying to kill all of the sea life with plastics with your horrible, horrible patches.
Yeah, and you're sitting there watching both sides go at it, like, everybody stop. Just stop.
Just please don't. No, I'm like, also, please don't be mean to them either. You're just making it worse. I think the thing I always have said about this is like, how many times do you think you have changed someone's mind by calling them stupid? Do you ever feel good when someone just says, "Hey, dummy, why don't you do it this way?" Does that make you want to follow their opinion, or does that make you think that they're reasonable? I've never changed my opinion because someone just said, "Oh, you're an idiot. You're this kind of idiot from this group that I've decided you're part of." Uh, I'm like,
Yeah,
that's never made me want to reconsider everything I believe.
I told you so's don't go over very well either.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
told you so's don't work.
it might be right, but
Well, hey, this is why you have private channels and public channels, guys.
yep, there you go.
Though, do remember that any private channel is a public channel waiting to happen if you say something bad enough.
Yeah,
the the
click.
click, yeah, screenshots happen, people. But what I'll say is this: we used to call it your manifesto moment. I had a very good friend at one point was in a group with me. It was not related to the decoration industry, who I guess one day decided he didn't want to be part of the group. He decided to sent out a mass email that told everybody what he thought about what they did, said which people were on the right side, which people were on the wrong side. And in doing so, he also split up friends by saying one of them was good and one of them was on the wrong side. Um, and after that point, could not talk to anyone. He was out. He could not talk to anybody who was in any of these groups, couldn't talk to anybody who was secondarily related to those groups. Business could not be done with anyone who had even heard of the manifesto. What I always tell people is be independently wealthy before you decide to have your manifesto moment, because the likelihood is you don't come back from those real well.
You don't throw a match on the bridge covered in gasoline on your way out and expect to walk back the other.
No, you are on that side of that river forever.
Yep.
All right, we got a comment from Mike here. Plastic is part of our green future. Except drinking straws in Canada, we drink through cardboard now. Cups are still plastic, but by God, we fixed the straw problem. Yeah, I know it feels uneven. That's and I will probably throw my own town under the bus. We keep on having fires at our recycling depots, and it's happened often enough that I'm like, you could have just burned them. You could have just burned them in your backyard. And it makes me feel bad because I'm like, we do have spent all this time separating things, but then they kind of don't take care of it at the depot end. And then somehow or another, every few months, there's a fire that takes out a big bale of plastic. And you're like,
See, and that's really
it's
interesting to me
rough.
how other cities do it because in
Yeah.
my town, all of our garbage goes to an incinerator,
Mm,
and they generate the electricity that powers the town through the incinerator.
yeah. Yeah. And we have landfill. So yeah, that's the thing. Everything we have landfill generally, we have a recycling program, but things have stacked up in the depots because talking about dealing with change in the world, China stopped taking it. Once China
Yep.
stopped taking that material, the material's stacking up in these depots and not actually being recycled yet. And the other thing I'll tell you truthfully, we talked about on Tubular Guys with change, some of the things we do aren't suited to our environment. Literal environment in New Mexico, we have to have the question, is it worth it to recycle an aluminum can because of the water involved in the process? If you were doing it locally, how much water would it take? Because we don't have enough water in the aquifer for 50 years of people being here. We'd have to think about what we're going to do with the water. And the funny thing is,
Yep.
I know we were talking about that in an environmental sense, but it's kind of the same in business. Like we have resources where we have to look at it and go, is it worth saving the money on something if the expenditure is going to be taken up by more time on our end or more effort or by losing something else that we needed or opportunity cost? Not all costs are outgoing money. And that's one of those things.
I know it was big for me when I started actually doing my own business.
Mm,
Before I did my own business, I wanted to learn everything and do everything myself.
yeah,
And then I started my own business and I realized, you know what? It's cheaper for me to keep doing what I'm doing and pay somebody that knows what they're doing to do that.
absolutely. And it's tough. Whether it's because you want to be involved in the creative process, that's a lot of us, and especially in the hobby to pro track of embroidery, a lot of it is like I like doing this work, I like doing this creative work. I don't want to sub that out, even if the best thing I could do for my business is be the person bringing in orders.
Yep.
That is a hard call, and I'll say this too: the first time I remember distinctly when I started outsourcing certain things, even though I wasn't in control of the shop, I didn't own the shop I was at. There were times where it's like, okay, we're just bringing in a patch company and you're not touching this. Like, we've got an emblem company. Eric, there's too many pieces. We're not doing it in house. Their digitizers are okay. We'll get a sample first to make sure it looks as good as our work, and we'll let you fight with them if the work doesn't look good. But if it looks good enough, you're going to let it go. That was a hard day. I mean, I started out doing that in my career, but when I had to do it for a customer who was coming to us because of our creative work, that was a tough day. That was
Oh,
the
I
first time
bet.
I ever let that go. I was like, all right, I just have to trust that there is somebody out there who's going to handle this correctly after we kind of brought these people back from the brink by doing the work in house.
I can picture it now. You're hugging the computer saying, "No, you're not touching it."
Well, part of the problem is just you have to stop and realize you're like, at first it feels like this is my commitment to quality. I'm like,
Yep.
it's also your perfectionism. It's also, and this is the kind of weird thing to say, but it's also a little bit of elitism. You're like, well, no one could do this customer's work as good as I'm going to do it. If you said it like that, it sounds terrible,
Yeah.
but it is what you kind of mean. And part of it
Right.
is that you're afraid that you have a customer who you've engendered that kind of trust with, and you don't want to let somebody else involve themselves in that trust. But it turns out sometimes you're like, yeah, the best option is that. And I'll say the thing that we did in house that messed that all up, we were doing everything. So I have cut in vinyl. I put graphics on a SWAT truck once. I mean, I've done decoration of all kinds. I've put graphics on glass doors. I've sublimated. I've screen printed. We've done a little bit of everything. Even everybody in the shop has done a little bit of everything. But we had a wide format printer and we were printing banners. And it just got to this point where like, we can have a print shop that this is all they do, and they have a wall-sized printer because they also print billboards. Why in the world at scale would we try and keep our little Epson 9600 printing out people's banners and cleaning the heads and working on it and constantly dealing with the issues that a big inkjet printer has,
Yeah.
especially when you're not using it all the time?
That's the big one. You're like, it sat for a month. We need to print out this banner. It's not going to work, and we're going to spend 3 days troubleshooting it.
Yeah, and probably hundreds of dollars, and probably by this point thousands of dollars on
Yep.
ink cartridges because we're probably not going to get those back. We're flushing tubes. We may have a head problem. Yeah,
Yep.
why would we do that when we can outsource it, find someone we trust, and do the work? It's super hard to let go of that control, though. It can be.
It is. I
It
mean,
is.
currently I have no printer, like as a work printer.
Mm,
I have no printer. And when I need to print, it cost me 12 cents a page to go down to the local print and copy place and have
mm,
them print out whatever I need.
yeah.
Versus every time I needed to print something, I was going and buying $60 worth of ink, and I was kicking the printer and cursing a lot. And
Yeah.
I can pay 12 cents a page. Okay
And
with it.
probably produce, if you have to print something for a job, probably produce a better looking final result
By far, yeah.
by
You know
far.
that have you seen the foil where you print on
Yes.
a laser printer and you foil it through a laminator?
Yeah.
You know, that you can have all those prints done at a print shop.
Yes, you can.
Then
Well,
you
I
just
know there. I remember this debate in our shop. We were about to get a pad printer. If you guys know what a pad printer is, it's the little rubber knob that you put on, and then you screen print onto it, and then you drop it onto something. We were about to have a pad printer in house, and then we're like, why in the world would we not have people who do this every day, all day, do this work,
yep.
and just take our vig off the top? Like, that is what we did. Like, we did our art prep, we did that work, charge for that service. Also use it as a marketing tool for our apparel that we do all day long, that we know how to do, and move it along. It's just how it is. It makes more sense, but sometimes it can be hard to let that stuff go.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we're coming up toward the end. I want to give you a chance. Do you have anything you want to let people know about before we get done?
Well, we've got Applicate Getaway coming up here in July that myself, Justin, Matt, and actually Adam is going to be at. So Adam just did his vendor voices with Christine yesterday. I think she posted it last night. That's the Applicate Getaway. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's in Texas. I want to say it's in Dallas, Fort Worth, Sheridan.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be a lot of fun. We're really excited for that. Lots of education there. And I mean, you were on the show last Thursday. We had
Yes,
Eric,
indeed.
or Tuesday. We had Eric this week on Tuesday. We did kind of an Ask Experts panel. That was a lot of fun. If you want to go back and take a look at that, that's on the Embroidery Nerd page. If you want to join the Embroidery Nerd group, I would greatly appreciate it. Just be sure that you answer all 3 questions. There's 3 questions. Just answer
You
them
can
all.
answer 3 questions, people.
You can answer them. You would be amazed at how many people don't. It's almost like we kick out maybe 60% of the people because they don't answer the questions. And it keeps stuff out for sure, but it also can be mildly like frustrating. You joined, it gave you the option for questions.
Follow directions, people.
Yeah, I mean, there's no option for me to go send this person the questions again. It's just decline or accept. So it's a lot of fun there. But other than that, I think that's pretty much everything I've got going on.
Right.
And you can feel free to cut me off while I'm talking, because that's like
No,
the best
we're
part.
good. I'm actually going to not do the hard cutoff this time. I'm just going to say, go check out the Embroidery Nerd group on Facebook, because, like I said, I want to make sure and give you some time to say what you do, because it's been great to have you on the show. But they should go and follow what you're doing, and not just because I was on the show. I mean, hey, I like the show too. DJ did a good job as well, and Justin was in there. We had Matt occasionally poking his head up to tell a story that made us all cringe, but that's what Matt does, and he does it well. So yeah,
Hey,
go check out
we
the
learned the
Embroidery Nerd group.
water soluble spray bottle. I learned
That
that.
no, totally new tip. If you didn't see that, yeah, DJ talks about how to make some light adhesive for your embroidery with water soluble stabilizer. Go check it out. I'm not telling you exactly how, though you probably figured it out already. Go check that out, as well as us just cutting up about being old commercial embroiderers who now do a lot more than just that. All right, folks, with that, we'll just call that the end of the half. And thank you, Jeff, for being on. I appreciate it. I probably won't bug you immediately next week. We'll see if we can get Aaron back on, but who knows? Jeff might just take Aaron's place. He's doing better than Aaron for the last couple weeks showing
There
up,
you go.
guys.
I just got a promotion.
See, right? Now you can have the same wages I do with the two regular guys. Everything I have, you can have exactly the same.
Awesome.
All right, folks. Well, thanks for joining us.
Yep. Thank you.